Hey guys, what is up? What's going on? Trying to make it interesting. What is groovy? How about that? And today we're going to be talking about how wrong the polls were. Again, actually, before we get started with this video, and I know you're probably just going to skip ahead like 20 seconds, but whatever. I am going to take a break from YouTube just for a few days. Like, it's not going to be like one of those big, I'm going to take a break for the next 3 months. No, it'll just be for a few days. Today's Tuesday, or it's Monday night, so I'll probably just post this tomorrow. I'll schedule this to post for tomorrow, or rather, I'll have my middleman schedule this to post tomorrow, and then I'll be off until probably the weekend, but yeah, so thank you for all your support. I actually wrote like 4 or 5 paragraphs in the community tab, so go to the community tab and read the full post. It actually explains why I'm doing this, and just thanks you for your support. So let's get started with this video before my brief break. We're just all the states that I don't really think are that important, to be quite honest. Again, this isn't to say that I don't love these states. I actually live in a non-important state, which is kind of sad for me electorally, but I'll move, obviously. I'm not going to live in my mom's basement, or at least I hope not. So yeah, they're essentially. Oh, why is okay? I almost just filled out the safe Democratic states, and I was like, wait a minute, that can't be right. So yeah, we're just gonna fill out the states that I don't really think we need to talk about too much, or to a certain extent. Basically, just all the states that are not swing states. You know what? For the sake of time, we're gonna get rid of New Mexico and Colorado. Although I will tell you that Colorado actually did underestimate Biden's support there, which is weird, but whatever. So yeah, that should do it. So there are 210 toss-up or important electoral votes that we're going to be talking about. So let's get started. Oh, New Hampshire is actually important. So let's get started, but Virginia's not. So let's get started, finally. And we're going to take a look at the polls from each state. So we're going to take a look, starting with, we'll go this way, starting with Nevada polls between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So let's see if it still shows Trump and Biden. Yes, it does. So on November 3rd, Biden was ahead by 5.3, and we should pull up their final results as well. Here we go. And the Guardian finally called Georgia for Biden. So Nevada, Joe Biden did win Nevada. The county should show up soon. He won the state. Quick math, by around 2.4, so a similar margin to Hillary Clinton. So the polls underestimated him, or they underestimated Trump, rather. Excuse me. By a tilt margin, so underestimated Trump by a tilt margin. Now in Arizona, not Nevada. We'll get rid of that tab. We'll have to go to Arizona polling, where Joe Biden was ahead by 2.6. They were pretty accurate there. He won by like 0.3 or something. Hey, Guardian, do you see my mouse clicking? Okay. I don't know why it's doing that. Arizona, he flipped Arizona, obviously. He went by 0.3. But basically all the voting, there are probably like a couple hundred ballots that have left to be counted, or they're just compensating for the fact that there might be some ballots that are going to be uncounted, that they're going to find later because of recounts and audits, etc. So, all right. Why are they polling U.S. Senate 7 days after the... Okay. All right, whatever. Don't trust the process. So, Joe Biden was ahead by 2.6 on election day. In the polls, they underestimated Trump by 2.3. That's a lean margin of underestimation compared to 2016, where they underestimated Clinton by a little bit. But they were pretty accurate overall. Now in Texas, people were saying Texas was going to flip. I said it was going to go to Trump by 5 to 6%. It was right in the middle. Trump was ahead by 1% in the polls on election day. Let's see how much he was ahead by, or he won by. He won by like... Okay, so he won essentially by 5.6. Yeah, that's right, 5.6. I'm probably not good at math. Whatever, 5.6. So that means they underestimated him by a lean margin. So a lean margin of underestimation in Texas for Donald Trump. Now in Nebraska 2nd District, I think this is one of the few places that the poll actually overestimated Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Yeah, they overestimated Donald Trump. Let's go to Nebraska. Pull up the 2nd Congressional District. Biden was ahead by 3.8, which actually mirrored my projection. He won Nebraska's 2nd District by like 9 or 10. So we'll just go and say they underestimated him by a likely margin. Yeah, whatever. Now, going over to the state of Iowa, taking a look at Iowa, the polls in Iowa, I think they had is like basically a tie. Biden was ahead like before election day, then like a few days before election day, Trump shot ahead. They ended up being right, but they only had him ahead by 1%. He ended up winning by a lot more than that. He won by like 8. So, yes, they underestimated him by a likely margin. Not very good news for the polls in Iowa, and they were wrong again. They had him only ahead by 2 points in 2016 on election day. He ended up winning by more like 9.5. So the polls in Iowa, once again, they're horrible at finding Republican support. They had Greenfield winning the Senate race. She lost. So again, just really the polling in Iowa, I never really trusted it, and they just proved me right again that they're horrible at their job. Now in Minnesota, Biden was ahead by 9% on election day. He won by 7, so they were fairly accurate. I mean, if he was ahead by 9.3 or something, 9.2, they underestimated him by exactly a tilt margin, or they underestimated Trump by exactly a tilt margin. So, whatever, lean, tilt. For the sake of this video being about how the polls are wrong, I will err on the side of the polls are wrong. I need to go do some stuff soon, but whatever. Now, in Wisconsin, as you can tell here, the polls were once again horribly off. They had Biden ahead by 8.4%. They said they fixed their methods. It looks like they didn't, because Clinton was ahead by 6. She lost the state by 1. 7% swing towards the Republicans. We saw a similar thing. This fact, it was even bigger. It was closer to a 7.7% swing. So that's a likely margin of underestimation in Wisconsin. Not good at all for the polling industry. And I do think this is more of a Trump problem. Because, look, Trump, whether you like him or not, he does kind of vilify the media. And again, that could be justified, that could be unjust, that could just be not fair. Not my job to judge the President of the United States. So, again, he does that, and I think that creates, the sentiment that Trump voters should just not respond to the polls. So that's why I think they were so off and they underestimated Trump. Now, Biden was ahead in Michigan by 8, ended up winning it by close to 3. So they weren't super off, but they were still pretty bad. So, they had Biden winning, but he won by a lot less than they expected. Now, in Ohio, I think that the polls had Biden ahead for a while, and as more polls came in, we saw Trump take the lead in Ohio. So, yeah, as you can see, Biden was ahead from like June 2nd all the way till the end of July, and then he was kind of back and forth. He took the lead in September until the middle of October, but Trump was ahead by 1 election day. He won by 8. So that's a healthy, very unhealthy for the polls, actually, likely margin of underestimation. So the polls in Nevada so far, from what we've seen, were actually the most accurate. Now, going down to Florida, where the polls were abysmal, Biden was supposed to win Florida by a lean margin, even a likely margin sometimes according to the polls. Back in like July, he was ahead by like 7% in Florida. But either way, I called Florida going to Trump. Yeah, like just look at this. He was supposed to win by 7 on July 27th. But Florida, Biden was up in the polls by 2. He ended up losing it by over 3%, which is kind of an embarrassing showing for him, considering a lot of people thought he was going to win the state. So Florida that's likely margin of underestimation for Donald Trump. Not good with the Democrats. Now in Georgia, I think the polls were actually like spot on. They actually underestimated Trump by a tilt margin, but they were fairly accurate. I mean, Biden won the state by 0.3. They had him winning by 1, so they were pretty accurate in Georgia. I'll be willing to cut them some slack there when I didn't see that coming, and they did. So yeah, now in North Carolina, we'll check out the polls for North Carolina. Where's North Carolina? Here it is. So Biden was ahead by 2% on election day. He lost by closer to 2% the other way around. So North Carolina, Trump won by 1.4. So that means that they underestimated Trump by a lean margin, if I'm correct. Yeah, something like that. Now let's go to Pennsylvania and then work our way up to New Hampshire. Pennsylvania, the polls had Biden up by 5. They ended up being fairly accurate. Obviously, it was closer than that. But he was. And actually, there's still some results from Hunting. Yeah, that's not enough. I was like, wait a minute, that's a red county, but it's not a ton of votes. And even if like all of them go to Trump, which is probably like a couple hundred, yeah, no way. So Wisconsin, I almost said Wisconsin. Pennsylvania goes to Biden by 1.2. The polls had him ahead by 4.7. That's a 3.5% margin of underestimation for Donald Trump. Now Pennsylvania leaned to Trump. Now in New Hampshire, I believe that the polls were, they were somewhat accurate here. They had Biden up by like 10% or something. And he won it by 7, so he's ahead by 11. Let's go up here now. In New Hampshire, he did very well in New Hampshire, better than I thought. He won by, they underestimated him by Trump by a lean margin, so not as bad as other states. I mean, the polls in Wisconsin and Iowa were just so bad. Oh my gosh, it was insane. Same with Florida. And imagine if the polls had Biden. Imagine if Biden maintained that 7-point lead that he had in July. That would have been a disaster. If he was ahead by 7, then he lost it by 3, that would have been a horrible look for the polls, as if they weren't disrespected enough. Now going over to the state of Maine, In that second congressional district, the contested one, Biden was supposed to win by 3 points. That did not age well for him. He lost by like 7 or 8. So we'll just say that's a likely margin of underestimation. So the polls though were pretty bad once again. So again, that's your map. I'm not going to fill every single state because that'll be a waste of my time. I will tell you that Colorado did swing left, but other than that, I think everything trended red compared to the polls. So one electoral vote of the contested states was supposed to be a closer than it was in favor of Trump, and then the rest swung against Biden. So thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Help my channel out. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you all in the next one.